Hey guys, welcome to Coaching with Chris. Today, I have Dr. Bruce Lund with me, and I am super excited. Anyone that's trained as many salespeople as he has had great success. We're going to talk about a few things, turning your pitch into money, and the thing that all originators love, which is the 4-hour work week. So we'll see how this goes, but I'm excited because I love talking to people that are out there in the middle of the weeds, coaching originators or coaching salespeople to be the very best. And look, it's a full-time job. It's got to be. So let's bring Bruce Lund in. Dr. Bruce, how are you?
I am doing great, Chris. Thank you so much for having me. I am super excited, man. I've been watching your podcast, these episodes for a while, so it's awesome to be on here.
So your journey into sales had to start somewhere. I wanted to be a farmer when I grew up, so sales wasn't even entered into my background. But how did you your career get started? How did you get going into sales? And then from there, the ability to be able to coach and train all these salespeople across the country.
Yeah, for sure. So background is I'm a former college professor. So, when I was 24, 25 years old, I moved to Nashville, Tennessee to start going to grad school, got a PhD in human performance. But during that time, Chris, I met a gentleman named Coach Michael Burt out of Nashville there, has a great coaching program called Monster Producer. Yeah. So I was his number 2 guy for as long as I can remember. They're cutting my teeth. And I just fell in love with what he did, right? So I was going to grad school. I'm a graduate teaching assistant. I'm teaching classes, all that kind of stuff. And so, man, I followed him around like a puppy dog. When he was on stage, I wanted to go sell his books. I wanted to just get as much out of that as I possibly could. And then, fast forward, once I actually graduated, I was going to go be a professor. And I was for a couple of years in the Texas A&M system. And then he recruited me back to the company because I got tired of hearing those who can't teach. And I was like, I'll show you, kind of a thing. And so I went back with him for a couple of years before I went, and I eventually launched 90-Day Sales Manager. So that's a long way to say, though, I've always just had that heart of a teacher approach. And I have definitely been in traditional sales roles, but more than anything, because of working with him and because of my background as a professor, man, it's always been education first for everything that I've done.
Relating back, by the way, you never know where you're going to see Coach Burt. It was a few months ago. I turned around. I'm in a bathroom in a hotel in San Diego. And I go, Coach Burt? And he goes, yeah, what's going on? What are you guys doing? What are you doing here, Chris? I go, oh, I'm talking to a group of loan originators. What are you doing here? I'm talking to a set of doctors. But he's going 100 miles an hour. I'm like, you never know where I'm going to see you. But what are 3 things that you really feel like salespeople in general, and I feel like my audience is majority all originators, some realtors, but what do you feel like is 3 things or 3 topics that we screw up as salespeople?
3 topics that we screw up.
Probably, for example, I don't want to take one that it would be one of yours, but I'm just kind of curious to hear what you say. Time management. Or what are 3 things that you're really working hard on with sales sure. and professionals in this area that we kind of get confused on? Maybe that's a better word.
Yeah, for sure. I think, starting if we start with time management, I do think that's consistently, this, Coach Chris, consistently the number one thing that I think people struggle with the most. And there's nothing sexy about time management, man. Let's face it. And I think maybe that's the problem is people get bored or they get complacent or whatever it might be. But I've always been a proponent is there's no such thing as time management. There's me management and there's energy management. And I do believe one of the biggest challenges is that energy management, right? At the end of the day, we only have so much good energy.
I've never heard energy management before.
Yeah. So, and energy management, I just think about it as everyone, you're talking about Coach Burt and his high energy, his all that kind of stuff, right? And everyone thinks I have a lot of high energy as well, but man, I hit that same 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock lull, just like a lot of people do that are early risers that get up and go at 5 a.m. and all that kind of stuff as well. And so the energy management, right? So in the afternoons for me, I think about it as, I have to go do energy compounding things in the afternoon, right? So if I'm super productive from 6 a.m. to noon, right, I'm ready to go do a lot of those high value activities. And then in the afternoon, it's really like, okay, well, I need to go do things that I really enjoy with people I enjoy doing them with. So for instance, I know that I'm looking kind of funky here on camera. right? I'm in a Holiday Inn in Wichita, Kansas, right? You know the
Yeah.
speaking and traveling life, right? So I did an
Yeah.
event yesterday with the Kansas Realtor Association in Wichita.
Oh, cool.
And then now I'm going this afternoon. We're going out for some dinner and cocktails, all that kind of stuff, right? But I share that with you because it's like those are energy compounding things for me, going and doing those networking and all that kind of stuff. But that might be different for somebody else, right? Like those things might be energy depleting. And so the whole point there, though, is, we only get the same amount of hours every single day. And I just feel like a lot of people, it's more about how am I managing my energy every single day? And a byproduct of that, Chris, is a lot of times it really is like, are you giving your good energy to the people who matter the most? Right? Or are you like giving your leftover crumbs to the people who matter the most? And that's one of those things that I see most mortgage loan officers, they're out there chasing these top producing real estate agents that, don't value them. They're trying to sell to them. They're trying to convince them that they're good enough. And then they're giving the majority of their leftover energy or their leftover energy to the people they love the most, their family members. And so, when you're talking about that time management, again, to me, it's more about the energy management.
You made me think about myself many times. I give it all I got, and then I get home and I've like lost my energy. And I feel like sometimes my wife is counting on me to have some energy when I get home to go do this or to go do that, or even to do a few chores around the house. And I'm running at 35%. And what would you tell me that I don't want to ever give? I always say, don't go home and give your family your second best, give them your first best. But I got to be able to pace that energy or get a whole bunch of shots or something to be able to get home, to be able to have it. Like, what would you give me as advice so that I could give my wife and family my best?
Yeah. And you're right. There are some people that naturally they can go 14, 16, 18 hours. And, I know you're one of those as well, right? But you're saying like, at the end of the day, we do only have so much good energy. And so it's like, okay, well, how do we reserve some of that good energy? So my coaching would be, even when you get home, it's like, well, how do we reserve and how do we have that time to really maximize the things, again, that you enjoy and they enjoy? So maybe it's finding more of those types of things together that you can do, right? Like it's an afternoon, it's an evening walk around the subdivision, right? It's things like that. So, even if you are giving it your all, which that's what we do as entrepreneurs, man. Like we don't have any other way. Even if I'm tired, I get on stage like right now, like, oh gosh, I had a long day yesterday, but it's like now I'm on again, right? And so I think that's part of that coaching is how do you incorporate doing some of those more of those things that you enjoy, with the family and things like that as well. But I do think, again, a lot of this goes back to, are you giving the majority of your good energy to the right people as well? And so, just kind of doing that autopsy of, when I am giving my energy all day, every day, am I really giving it to people that reciprocate it and who really, really deserve it and who really want it, that kind of a thing, right? So that's always a question on the front end. In business, we're always talking about, your Dream 100 partners and your big advocates and all these, we got to be constantly networking and things like that. But it's like, a big part of this, as you get seasoned and experienced like yourself, right? You have a database of thousands of people, right? You can't possibly give all of your good energy to all these different types of people. And so, that's where we use words like tribe and all that kind of stuff in coaching, but it's not a cliche, man. Most of the cliches are true, right? That's why they're cliche. And so when you can really do that autopsy of like, man, am I really giving my good energy to the people who matter the most? So that would be that exercise. Like if you get to the end of the day and you're like, hey, there's certain people like you dread having those conversations with, like, cut them out, eliminate, reduce those conversations.
Right. Eat the frog, right? Get it done early.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. So I want to get to this 90-day sales manager, which I'm super excited. I know that you've just launched, but number 2. So if number 1's time management, what's number 2?
Number 2, I think it's the word, if we're going to stick to sales themes, it's prospecting. This word prospecting, I feel like it's very misunderstood, right? Back in the day, prospecting used to be like, if I asked you, you probably think it's like people think of it as cold calling, right? Like we heard that word prospecting is like, I'm going to open up a phone book and now I got to start dialing for dollars, right? And like in today's, modern world of mortgage and just in sales in general, we have so much data, we have so much information. Whether it's actual production numbers, whether it's actual social media platforms, whether it's, Googling people, all that kind of stuff. Like there's a reason why we're reaching out to somebody in the first place, even if they don't know who you are, right? Like ideally they do know who you are, but this idea of prospecting is like cold calling. And that's when I coach. I love coaching newer people, which are typically younger people, right? In the industries. And, when I can help them go from, I think I can make it to, I know I can make it to, this is my career. Like, that's what's fun for me. As much as I love coaching the $100 million plus producers in mortgage, to me, it's like helping those 0 to 20 million, like help them go, hey, this is my vocation, right? This is my career. But a big part of that on the front end is just understanding this prospecting. There's no such thing as a one call close, right? Like, there's no such thing as dialing for dollars and all this kind of stuff. It really is just kind of offloading that pressure of what prospecting actually is, which really, if you break it down in its simplest forms, you make an initial contact, whether that's a text, email, an introduction, whatever it is. You're trying to set the appointment, and then you're trying to conduct the appointment. And you know what? Give yourself 90 days to actually make that happen. And so that's why I run everything, Chris, in this 90-day cycle. And so, like, I call it my help list. Like, I think I can help you. I don't know until I have a conversation. But you know what? I'm going to give myself 90 days to really warm up that partnership, that relationship, whether it's I want to start being more visible through social. I want to start showing up. I'm not stalking you, but maybe I bump into you at a networking event because you're there, that kind of a thing. So would you agree, though, like that word prospecting, I just think it's misused by a lot of people, especially in our modern day mortgage market.
No, I totally agree. But you made me think about this when you were talking through that is that, prospecting is also researching, just like what you said. So I want to make sure everybody caught that. Researching, it might be branding through social media. It might be just simply connecting. And I don't think we give enough credit to connecting with others as called prospecting. But it is, green time, prospecting, all of these different buzzwords. The simple thing is that, aren't you saying just do activity, prospecting activity to be able to build what you're selling? It is just amazing. If you simply call anyone, I don't care if it's your grandma, you will eventually lead into some opportunity if you're willing to do it. It's like magical.
That's right. Yeah. And Chris, a lot of this stuff, we know this as coaches, it's nothing earth shattering, but we have our own little nuances, right? You have your nuances. I have my nuances. I have my style. You have your style, and other people resonate through that. But let's be honest, a lot of the things that we do coach and we touched on, it is a lot of the very basic things. It's discipline, it's consistency, it's confidence, right? It's prospecting, it's follow-up. What does your new client onboarding look like? How are you getting more positive attention for your brand and your business? What is your pitch? How do you overcome the commodity trap, right? So, I think that's another part when we're just talking about business in general. It's pretty simple on paper. And that's really, I'm known as the 5 habits guy, the 5 habits of highly effective salespeople. I've done it at the LA Convention Center in New York, the New York City Marriott Marquis. I've done it at the top financial services association, the MBAs, all that kind of stuff. Right. But, when I break down those 5 habits, the reality is all of our businesses are simple on paper. It doesn't mean it's easy though, right? Like none of this is easy. Again, it's the energy management. It's my feelings. I don't feel like doing it. I lack the confidence in my follow-up. I do have the call reluctance. I don't really have anything. I don't think I have anything of value to say, right? You start comparing yourself up to other people. Because that's natural for us to do. I go back to working with Coach Burt. Man, I love Coach Burt. I would not be where I am without him.
Yeah.
But it's natural even now from afar. This is a guy that's, a little bit older than me. He's been doing it for a lot longer than me. But I always compare up, right? We almost never compare down. We always compare up. And I think that's one of those challenges that a lot of people have is, and we all know, comparison is the thief of joy.
It is.
Comparison is an emotional cancer. But a lot of us do that. And there's a healthy way to do it, but there's also an unhealthy way to do it.
Right.
Yeah.
You said something, and I think, you're originator, you're listening to us, and I can just see this question like rolling through your head, and maybe you don't want to say it, but like, Dr. Bruce, how do I find my own style?
Your authentic voice is what we like to call it, right? Your unique abilities. Yeah. So, it goes back to that comparison thing. And I'm a big believer. Eventually I'm going to write this book, Chris, right? I have a buddy, Eric Sachs.
The new book's coming out of this right now. You're going to tell us the title.
Well, I keep speaking it out into the universe, which means eventually it has to happen, right? That's that accountability layer that I'm so big on, right? So, but I have a buddy of mine, co-founder of a company called Breakthrough Broker, which is the #1 free marketing tool for real estate agents in the world. Over 600,000 real estate agents. He has this really cool topic that's called "I shall not should on myself, right? And there's just so many things that I should be doing this and I should be doing that, right? So, but in saying all that, one of the concepts that I really want to write a book about, it's turn your mess into your message, right? And MESS being an acronym, Chris, M equals your mentors, E equals your experiences, S equals your struggles, and then the last S equals your scripting, right? And so within all that, right, that's what makes you different.
Give that to me again. That's so good. Give that to me again. I'm gonna write this down. Plus, if you guys missed it, grab a pen real quick and write this down. M is for
mentors. We all have unique mentors. Like Coach Burt was a great mentor for me. I would not be where I am without him. I have other great coaches and mentors. Playing college baseball, I have my baseball coaches. I have 3-sport athlete in high school, right? Like I would be dead in a gutter. I would be if I wasn't for these great coaches who saw the good in me and when it was easy to see the bad, right? So we all have those. I hope that we all have those unique mentors, at least one in our life, right? Yep. So that's the M. The E is unique experiences. Right. So for instance, in my own life, like playing college baseball, right? Like, less than 10% of high school athletes go become, play in college sports. Right. So that's a unique experience that I had, a 4-year athlete and all that kind of stuff, so we all have some of those different unique experiences and it's just packaging that up. Right. And then the S from there gets into your struggles. Right. We all have struggles. Quite frankly, that's what really makes us who we are. We've been battle tested. We've been through something. And because of that, now we have that experience that comes from it, that story that comes from it. And, Chris, one of the things that I share a lot of times on stage is, I grew up in a single parent home. Dad was an alcoholic most of my life. And so, my mom was out working multiple jobs. So sports was always my release. Right. So I used to just love watching Alex Rodriguez hit a baseball, right? When he was with the Mariners. So I'm in our living room trailer, like VHS recording these athletes, Greg Maddux throwing a baseball. I mean, I'm literally like growing up in Michigan, right? Like we have maybe 3 months of good weather, right? So I'm like throwing this baseball into a couch cushion, that kind of a thing, right? So these are just unique struggles that I had growing up, right? I didn't have a dad around. I love sports. I got to kind of self-teach myself because my little sister doesn't like sports and nobody else is around, right? Well, that's a unique struggle that I have now. But what have I done, Chris? I packaged that up in a story. Now that's part of who I am. That's part of my authentic voice, my own personality, my own style. Right.
Wow. It's cool. I don't think we use struggles enough to connect with others to connect in a sense that I might have that same struggle.
Yeah, that's right.
And using struggles to connect. So the last, I see they put it up for us, man, they're good. Scripting.
Yeah, that's right. Chris, can I go back a second? You had just touched on there. Yeah. So that struggle part of it, when I'm coaching this concept, because a lot of times, Chris, I coach this, it's a marketing way, right? Like, hey, we all need a story. We all need to have confidence to share it. But a lot of times it's this, right? Like you meet with somebody for the first time and you just start sharing, whether it's a complete stranger or if it is a potential referral partner from a business standpoint. But you're right. Like there's a concept called social identity, right? You start to socially identify with other people based on this, your mentors, your experiences. But a lot of times it's that struggle, right? You're like, oh my gosh, you know what? I had a similar experience. My dad was an alcoholic. I grew up in a single wide trailer. I had these same type of struggles. And now because of that, what happens? You cut through a lot of that fluff. And you can really get down into, are we in alignment with each other, right? And as you know, in business and sales and just in life in general, when you can connect on two of those things right away, now you know, like, okay, this is going to be somebody that I'm going to work with long-term kind of a thing, right? But to your point earlier, like we don't share the struggles enough because why? It's because a lot of like we're embarrassed or we're nervous to share it, or it's like, oh gosh, I don't want to I just feel like I'm talking to a therapist, right? Like how much do I share right away kind of a thing. And so, don't suppress the past, celebrate it. That's what makes you who you are. That is what makes you different and unique. And we do all have some of those same backgrounds and things like that. So I just want to touch on that because you triggered that thought for me when it comes to that struggle piece where a lot of us are afraid to share that, right? Yeah, perfect.
So share it. What you're saying. Share
it. That's right. Share it. And then the scripting it really is your upbringing, right? As we know, those early age, like when you're really talking about your social identity, like early on in our lives, the scripting really is our upbringing, right? So the
Mhm.
household, the parents, the like the backgrounds, the experiences that we grow up in, that is a big part of what makes us who we are, So for instance, I can share with you, just talking about my parents. I love my mom, if she's watching this still, but my parents were naturally pessimistic. And so naturally, what am I? I'm naturally pessimistic. And I have to constantly move in the opposite direction of the world's negative pull and my own negative pull a lot of the times. But I don't understand that about myself. Does that make sense? So, a lot of
Yeah,
that scripting,
totally.
that upbringing, you have to understand that. And then you package all this up and now you are who you are, right?
Yeah, that's good. That's
Yeah.
really good. I mean, I don't even know how you're going to come up with number 3, but let's give it a shot. Number 3.
Number 3, you had mentioned, I kind of want to go one or two ways, either follow up or prospecting, right? Or not prospecting, follow up or marketing, right? So, I think let me do the follow up, right? I know that you
I
had
think follow-up's the perfect topic. Like,
cool.
if I look at it, I just had 20 originators here the other day across the country, and I feel like follow-up was one of the number 1 problems.
Yeah. It's consistently when I get in front of an audience like I did yesterday and I say, hey, these are the 5 habits. These are all the different components of your business. Like, hold up which finger, which habit is like number 3 goes up a lot, which is habit number 3, the follow-up, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
we've all heard the fortunes in the follow-up, right? We all
Right.
know that. And so it's like, well, why are we bad or why are we poor at follow-up? And I say poor, like I've been poor at follow-up in the past. And it's like we get too busy or we don't have the confidence to follow up or whatever that might be. One of the selling system categories that I teach is called the Fight Club, right? So,
Okay.
Chris, you and I meet for the first time. You fit my filter, right? We share that opportunity statement where we went back and forth. I shared my message. We resonate. We're connected, that kind of a thing. Well, very rarely are you just going to say, oh, yeah, here's the rest of my deal for the rest of my life, right? Like, it's going to require me to follow up and be consistent and disciplined in that follow up. And so that's the mindset for me is, hey, I know this person's going to use somebody. They fit my filter, somebody I want to be in alignment with, somebody I want to work with. I'm really good at what I do. Why would I not follow up, right? Like, it's my duty as a sales professional to fight to earn that business. And I'm doing myself and them a disservice if I don't. And so that's the mindset for me is we all know the fortunes and the follow-up, but most people go 1 or 2 very weak attempts. And it sounds something like this. I'm sure you've heard this. And listen, y'all, I've done this before myself, right? It's like, hey, just checking in with you. Right. Is that really moving the needle in that person's life? Right. That kind of a thing. Can I answer any more questions? Right. Like, that's one of those ones that we hear a lot. When I used to work with Coach Michael Burr, this goes back to my early 20s days. I said this to a woman once. Hey, I woke up today thinking about you. Like, how weird and creepy is that one, right? And so that's where it's like, talk about habits. Well, if you're thinking about like, all right, well, then what is your follow-up habits? It's like, okay, there's going to be 3 habits that I do no matter what. And a lot of this stuff, Coach Chris, people try to automate everything now, do they not? We want to try to automate everything. And you can't automate relationships, right? You can't automate relationships. And so I think that's where a lot of people get it wrong. I'm going to put them on a drip campaign, or I'm just going to automate these 3 to 4 to 5 touches. Could that be a strategy? Sure. But the majority of relationships, it requires you to physically follow up with them, whether it's a phone call, again, whether it's a text, email. I don't necessarily care how you're following up, but it just can't be these canned automated messages. Well, what does that require? Consistent, discipline, confidence. And man, I don't want to get on a soapbox here, but a lot of salespeople lack consistency, discipline, and confidence within that process, right? So it really is like, man, I don't allow everybody into my Fight Club. That's the cool part of it, right? Like, I'm only allowing those in there that fit my filter. But once you're in there, man, I'm going to be ruthless. I'm going to be relentless because I know that we're a good fit for each other.
Yeah. 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 I mean, the whole thing just goes better.
Yeah.
Well, that was really, really good. You just launched 90-day sales manager. And
technically, Chris, I launched 90-day sales 7 years ago, right? So I'm still kind of the best hidden secret here. So I did just launch.
Well, here's I didn't even know that. So get me correct. Get me corrected. Get me corrected on what is the 90-day sales manager.
Yeah. So 90-day sales manager, it is a boot camp, right? So going back to my previous days is, I had a division of the company with Coach Burt called Talent Supply. We get your younger, newer talent ready faster. And I was in charge of the curriculum, selling it, all that kind of stuff, in addition to all the things that we were doing. And that's where it just got to the point where I'm like, man, I know that this 90-day program, it could be really, really good. And so I moved to Denver. I don't know anybody. I moved from Nashville to Denver 2017, and I launched 90-day sales. And I kind of dubbed it the P90X of sales. I feel like everybody's tried P90X at least once, Tony Horton, right? So everyone kind of gets that concept. But it really is that, like the P90X of sales training, primarily when I launched it for real estate, mortgage, title, insurance, finance. But really over the past 5 years, I would say 90% of my clients are mortgage loan officers. But it really is that. It's like, I'm going to serve as your 90-day sales manager. We're going to go through this every single day. I have a virtual training platform. I have a workbook. I have a planner. That's the teacher in me, right, Chris? Like, there's nowhere to hide. I mean, it's the most rigorous coaching program that's out there. 15 minutes every single day. We can track that you're doing it. It comes with a 300-page workbook with exercises, scripts, all that kind of stuff. It comes with my sales planner. And then we do weekly live coaching calls every single Monday. And so it started out as more for individuals, but now it's really, quite frankly, we've had a ton of success with mortgage banks and credit unions right now. You know, if you have a team of 10 to 30 people, we launched a CRM. So that's what's actually new, is we now have a CRM. I didn't intend on launching a CRM at all. Originally, it was a sales accountability software. So over the past 5 years, it was like, we're going to have these KPIs and these metrics, and I want to know what you're doing, that kind of a thing. And then the more and more that I started to talk to credit unions and banks, the more I realized they have an organizational Salesforce type CRM, but they don't have a mortgage specific CRM. So now we have the only CRM plus coaching plus accountability program that is out there, that we're consistently having 40% growth with the mortgage teams that we're working with over this past year since launching the CRM. So that was a lot of information for you.
No, I got it. But I mean, like, you see 90-day sales manager thinking, okay, well, I'm going to learn how to be a sales manager in 90 days. But no, you are hiring yourself a sales manager for 90 days, which is so cool because, you know, you're probably listening to this, and I feel like there's a lot of originators out there on an island, got no one to hold them accountable. I always say you got to have a vision, you got to have a plan, and you got to figure out accountability. If you do those three things, like, your world will change. And here you're going to provide these three things. You're going to help them with a vision. You're going to give them all the tools. You're going to give them a plan. You're going to give them a planner. You're going to hold them accountable. Like, you're solving all three things all into one. And you complete this 90-day piece. Then what? What happens?
Then it's ongoing from there. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. From there, it's definitely ongoing. It's not one and done. Chris, this is one of the things that I had to learn earlier on in my business. You know, I was just like, okay, I'm gonna go launch 90-day sales. It's a badass boot camp, right?
Right.
And then what you realize in business is what? Retention business is a huge part of all this. So we launched an alumni version. So it really is like, you keep following the systems, you keep using the sales accountability software, the CRM now, assuming you don't have one. And then, I'm still doing the Monday morning motivations, 15 to 30 minutes for our folks. We have a coach on call option within all that, right? So if you ever need additional one-to-one or have some questions like that, we're constantly supporting you. And then we are doing, the mortgage monthly mastermind kind of a thing. Every single month, there's an hour-long specific topic about the real stuff that's happening, right? So we're not just leaving you on an island after you get done with the full 90 days for sure.
Cool. That's awesome. I've never heard of this. This is perfect. This is what probably a ton of originators need today. It is a boot camp like this. And look, the market, we feel like the market's really going to change in 4 months. I'll see. I just put myself out there. So it's July 18th. And I just said this, which is probably the dumbest thing I've ever said. So we'll see. And this would be perfect timing for this to get all up and ready for this new market that's coming.
That's right.
What's next for Dr. Bruce?
What's next for Dr. Bruce? I think, Chris, it goes back to, I still feel like I'm one of the best kept secrets, like I'm still a little baby star. And so I'm getting on larger and larger stages for sure. Some of the challenges that I've had, as we all have as entrepreneurs, is we want to do a little bit of everything, and we have monkey mind. We jump from one idea to the next. Now, luckily for me, that idea of launching this CRM has been a great one. I just launched one of the top product directors in the CRM space for mortgage. She came from another CRM company, right? So we found a great, there are riches in the niches. So we have more vision, as you had mentioned before, than ever before, where again, we're going like, if you have 5 to 35 people on a mortgage team, whether it is an IMB or a broker or a bank or a credit union, we can come in and really change the sales culture, because that's what we're noticing. A lot of people need that sales culture, or they need a right size, right, Chris? I mean, there's some definite right sizing going on at a lot of institutions where it's like, listen, you're just not doing the work. And we kind of help identify that, not in a negative way, right? We free them up to chase other passions, sort of a thing, right? So a lot of what's next for Dr. Bruce really is a lot of the same of, I feel like I've really figured out a lot about my business scalability over these last 6 months to a year. And so now it's just staying tunnel focused vision on that. Stop adding new things, right? One of my favorite books, Essentialism. And a lot of us, we just keep adding new things because we feel like we're being lazy or whatever it is, right? Or we get bored, or mentioned it earlier, complacent as entrepreneurs. It's like, no, just stay laser focused with what I'm doing right now, and don't try to be all things for all people. And I'm just
learn to say no. You mean
learning to say no? Yeah,
it's so hard.
Yeah,
it's so hard, especially when you try to help. You know, if I want to get involved in your program, if I want to hire you to speak to my group, if I want to be interested to see what CRM is, probably the number one question I get asked all the time is what CRM to use. How do I get connected with you? Where do I go? And also, what's this 90-day? So I'm asking 2 questions into one. And what's this 90-day sales manager thing cost?
Yep, for sure. So 90daysales.com is the website for the boot camp, but then that also has information about the CRM. I do also have a podcast, Coach Chris, that I just rebooted, as we know, man. And this is where I have so much respect for people like you, not only just as mortgage coaches and all that, like you've been doing it right for 20 years, I believe, based on my research.
I'll take 20 years. Yeah, I've been doing it a long time, but yeah, pretty close.
Okay.
You know, 01. I started in 01. So
I love it, man. Perfect. But I bring up the podcast because, you know, I feel like less than 10% of podcasts gets to episode 10, because it's a lot of work, man. It's a lot of consistency. It's a lot of discipline, like you talked about. So I mentioned that just because my podcast is on that page. But yeah, if you go to 90days,
what is it? What's your podcast called?
It's called the Solopreneur Movement. Okay. And it really is for individual, you know, real estate, mortgage, title, insurance, finance. But the interesting thing is, Chris, and this is kind of worked out by happen chance, you can't spell solopreneur without LO, right? So it really does lean into that LO, that loan officer. Yeah. So I've leaned into that again, like focusing on one area, although I've coached the top financial advisors and real estate agents and all that kind of stuff. It's just like, okay, we got this mortgage specific CRM now. The boot camp is crushing it for the people that do it. So again, staying tunnel vision, hyper-focused.
Give me that website again, where I go.
Yeah. 90daysales.com, 90daysales.com. And then my personal sort of my speaking page is just brucelund.com, BRUCELUND.com. Oh, there's only one S in there.
All right. Fix that.
You're all good.
Yeah. We'll be able to get that. No problems. Yeah. And then what's this thing cost? Like, is it a 90-day commitment? There you go. That's correct. That would be the right website. But what's this cost for me for 90 days to be able to hire you to be my sales manager?
$1,500 all in. So very, very inexpensive. I feel like very affordable. We try to make it very affordable because, again, I go back to, you know, when I first launched it was for those next generation loan officers, right? But you know, we've had $100+ million producers that go through it and love it as well. That just need to get that kick in the butt to get back to the basics, that kind of a thing. So $1,500 or $600 per month for 3 months, right? Sort of a thing. But that's all in. It includes the CRM and the coaching and the accountability, the workbook, the planner, the coach on call, and the weekly access to myself. And then after that, it's either $99 a month for the ongoing access to the platform and all the recordings, or $250 per month, no contracts, to where you get access to the ongoing live content, platform, CRM, all the different things as well.
Cool.
Yep.
Dr. Bruce, thank you so much for jumping on Coaching with Chris. I truly appreciate it. I know you're busy. You're out in Wichita, which I've been in Wichita. I've actually stayed at that hotel where you're at. I know you have 2 big specialty topics that you talk about, which is your turn your pitch into money and the 4-hour workday. If you're interested in hiring Dr. Bruce for any of that, make sure you get connected and go to his page, or hire a sales manager. get the habits, get the accountability, get the CRM, and change your business before this market's going to change. Thank you, Dr. Bruce.
Thank you, Chris. Appreciate it.
Have a great day.
You too.